I know you've discussed this as well on the Alec Baldwin case, another surprising ruling out of Arizona, where the judge tossed that case because prosecutors hadn't turned over bullet evidence that the defense had requested or didn't know about. One thing I do want to ask you about this is, he's a celebrity. He has high-powered attorneys. Do you feel like that played into the decision to dismiss this case with prejudice against Alec Baldwin?
I think the Baldwin case was more of a loss for the prosecution than it was a win for Baldwin and the defense. And obviously Baldwin's lawyers at Quinn and Manuel, they did a very good job. They went to Harvard Law School, where I'm at right now. But every first-year law student knows that you have to disclose exculpatory evidence. It's a criminal law issue, it's a constitutional issue under the U.S. Supreme Court's seminal decision in the United States versus Brady. So the fact that the prosecutors in the case, Morrissey and Johnson, received ammunition that suggested that someone other than armorer Hanny Gutierrez Reed supplied the live rounds that showed up on set and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins, that was evidence that had to be disclosed to the defense. Because the argument is Seth Kenny, who has a prop store, he was the one who was responsible. And the fact that the prosecution didn't disclose this evidence was such a huge intentional error. That's the important part. When Morrissey took the stand, if she had testified truthfully that it was an inadvertent failure, maybe, just maybe, the case could have been salvaged. But it was clear that the failure to disclose this exculpatory evidence was intentional. The judge had no real choice but to issue the ultimate sanction, and that was dismissal of the case.
I thought the prosecutor had also suggested that it was an inadvertent mistake, an oversight, that they had not turned over this ballistics evidence. Is that incorrect?
I think that was because there was an affirmative decision to place it in another file that was not disclosed to the defense. And I think it was that decision that the judge in the case pointed to. And let's not forget, this isn't the first mistake made in the case. It was certainly the most serious. But from the beginning, the prosecution charged an unconstitutional enhancement. The New Mexico legislature passed a law that called for a 5-year mandatory minimum sentence in state prison for certain types of firearms enhancements. And obviously we know that criminal laws can apply retroactively. That law was passed after the Russ shooting. Prosecutors tried to charge it, but that was stricken because it violated the ex post facto clause of the Constitution. Then the district attorney appointed a member of the New Mexico state legislature to be a special prosecutor in the case. And we know that's a separation of powers issue. Prosecutors, they're part of the executive branch. And obviously legislature is the legislative branch. And when it was clear that prosecutors weren't ready for a preliminary hearing, they didn't dismiss the case, go to a grand jury and get an indictment a year later. So really, this is the fourth mistake in the case, probably one of the most botched prosecutions in American history. And really, people should lose their jobs and potentially get sanctioned by the state bar. I mean, these are some really bad violations by the attorneys handling this case.
Yeah, it was almost a soap opera in itself. It could have been a movie, like the stumbles that kept appearing and kept happening in this case. Like you said, there were a lot of botched and missed opportunities, not making a judgment on whether Alec Baldwin was guilty, but the prosecution definitely missed a lot of opportunities.